Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for attending this panel on SDG 16 and the role of religious actors. Let me first of all introduce myself, Al-Amin Elian. I'm working at KAICIID in charge of the coordination of our programs in our focus countries and regions. And let me introduce first of all the chair of the session or of the panel, Metropolitan Emmanuel, who will make a short introduction to the discussion. His Eminence Metropolitan Emmanuel has always been known during his service and career as an advocate for peace and dialogue. He's currently Metropolitan of France, Exarch of the Ecumenical Patriarchate, elected in 2003, President of the Conference of European Churches and of the Assembly of Orthodox Bishops of France, Co-President of the World Conference of Religions for Peace, RFP, Director of the Liaison Office of the Orthodox Church to the European Union in Brussels, in charge of interfaith dialogue with Judaism and Islam on behalf of the Ecumenical Patriarchate. And lastly, he's also an esteemed member of the KAICIID Board of Directors. Thank you, Eminence, for being with us today. The floor is yours to make your introductory remarks.
Thank you very much, Rahman. And it's a great pleasure to be together this morning with all of you, the fellows from around the world. You know, in the Jewish and Christian Bible, in the so-called Beatitudes, it says that blessed are the peacemakers, because they're going to be called children of God. So we are, all of us, who are working for peace in order that this precious gift is given finally to everyone in the world. We are ultimately called to be children of God, and not children of a lesser God. So it's very important in the way that we who are involved, because I think that this is something that KAICIID, for example, has been doing all these years. A dialogue center, a center that brings together people from different faiths, traditions, backgrounds. That was from the very beginning that this idea came. And from the moment that the idea finally took flesh and started to work, we have this ambition to bring people around the world to be around the same table. We are caring through dialogue to establish peace in the world. And if there is one way to do that, is by establishing these links, by having confidence in one another, by coming to know the other, because this is as you know, in your own countries, your own experience, this is the thing that we don't know the other. We live in a society where we don't care about the other. We don't care about my neighbor. I don't want to know anything about him or her. And this creates also false interpretation of the other. There's where I think it's our way to give hope to the world through this dialogue. When you come around the table and have a dialogue, it doesn't mean that you believe the same. You come because you have differences. But this is why dialogue is important. A dialogue is definitely not a monologue. It's not You will not gain something if I continue talking to you all this morning. But you will gain something if you talk to each other. And this is what we want. So KAICIID is this platform that has been giving all these years the possibility of a fruitful exchange, and how through this dialogue we can really look in the ways of establishing peace. You know that we are people of different religions. We are probably sometimes accused of being having religion as the basis of the conflicts. I was growing up and listening to what was going on in the world, in former Yugoslavia, for example. And we tried to tell the people, the war, I'm just bringing an example, the war in former Yugoslavia was not about religion. It was very hard to persuade them. And this is where the dialogue, the interfaith dialogue, the intercultural dialogue is important. It has a possibility of coming to find solutions together. We're not imposing solutions. We're not imposing peace. We are looking for peace, and we are working for peace. It's in our hands to make the world a better place again. Thank you.
Thank you, Eminence, for these introductory remarks. SDGs are, as you know, the main internationally agreed upon development agenda endorsed by all the UN state members. And this conference aims at defining concrete ways that religious actors and interfaith dialogue support the 4 following SDGs. SDG 4 on quality education, 5 on gender empowerment, gender equality and women empowerment, SDG 17 on global partnership, and lastly, SDG 16, peaceful and inclusive societies, access to justice for all, and effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions. So we'll be focusing in this panel on SDG 16, which is, as you know, a prerequisite for the achievement of the other SDGs. And we're going to highlight the importance of interfaith dialogue in the peace processes. Global violence has been, according to many indicators, on the rise in the world. Conflicts are taking place not only among states, but also increasingly within societies themselves. Even stable countries, like in Europe, for example, are seeing a significant rise in internal tensions, creating divisions that could threaten social cohesion. In some cases, these conflicts and tensions have a religious dimension. The purpose of this panel is to highlight the important contribution of religious actors they can make to promote peaceful and inclusive societies, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions. In a nutshell, how can religious actors contribute to a more peaceful and fair world? So, guided by the inspiring remarks from the chair of the session, we have 3 to 4 questions that will be addressed by our panelists here. The first is, how can dialogue work to strengthen the participation of religious minorities, women, and marginalized groups in decision-making at all levels? Other question, how can religious actors contribute to promote peace in your respective countries? And what do you recommend to increase religious actors' involvement in the peace processes? Third question, what roles religious actors and interfaith dialogue play in reducing violence? Lastly, we would be happy if you can identify 2 or 3 priority areas or sectors that religious actors need to be engaged in to promote peace, rule of law, and reduce violence. For example, countering hate speech, protecting sacred sites, promoting interfaith solidarity, contributing to transitional justice processes, preventing electoral violence, promoting citizenship, fighting corruption, etc., etc. Now, I'm happy to introduce the panelists and ask them to respond to these questions. So we invited 5 panelists from different fellows, cohorts, countries, regions, and religious denominations to give us different perspectives and addressing the above-mentioned questions. I would like to remind everyone of the panelists that the plan is to speak only for 5 minutes and ask them kindly to stick to this limit. The first panelist is Bishoy Zayed Fikry Labib. He's from the International Cohort 2016, and he's working at CEOS Egypt. Fikri is a dialogue coordinator of the Coptic Protestant Organization for Social Services in Egypt. In his role, he works on capacity building among religious and community leaders and on strengthening ties and relationships within the community. Bishoy Zayed will talk in Arabic, but simultaneous translation will be provided to English. Thank you.
Good morning everybody. صباح الخير جميعا. أنا بشوي، أنا بس يعني عايز أعدل إن أنا مش أسقف. أنا مش رجل دين. أنا بشتغل في مجال التنمية والتنمية الثقافية بشكل محدد، وفي الهيئة الإنجيلية هي هيئة تنموية بتشتغل في مصر من الستينات، ومهتمين بوحدة أو بقطاع الحوار وحوار الأديان ونشر السلام المجتمعي. أنا بتشرف إن أنا موجود النهاردة وسطيكم، وكل الشكر لكايسيد وكل القائمين على تنظيم المؤتمر على المجهود اللي مبذول. الهدف ال16 إحنا لو بصينا لصياغته هنلاقي إن هو بيهدف إلى نشر مجتمعات سلمية وهادئة يتوفر فيها العدل والسلام المجتمعي والمساواة للجميع، بالإضافة لوجود مؤسسات قوية بتشتغل في نفس المجال. الهدف ال16 أنا شايف إنه مدخل لتحقيق باقي الأهداف ال17. يعني أنا شايف إنه هو أهم هدف في الأهداف ال17 اللي موجودة. يعني أنا أظن إن لو تم تحقيق الهدف ال16 هيبقى بالتالي بقى حقوق المرأة وحقوق الطفل وحقوق أغلب الفئات اللي بتعاني من عدم المساواة أو عدم تحقيق العدل أو التمييز، ده هيتحقق من خلال الهدف ال16. فأنا شايف إن هو هدف يعني أقوى هدف أو هو أهم هدف، ده من وجهة نظري الشخصية. وعشان أوصل للتنمية المستدامة لازم أخلق مجتمع سلمي وعادل يتمتع بالسلام والمواطنة، ويبقى فيه ترسيخ لقيم التعايش المشترك. لكن للأسف بنلاقي إن عدم الاستقرار والصراعات موجودة في مجتمعاتنا النامية، ويعني اللي فيها صراعات هي بيبقى أكبر تحدي ومشكلة بتواجهنا. والصراعات إحنا لو حصرناها هنلاقيها هي في شقين أو في جزئين: الصراعات الدينية أو العرقية أو الطائفية، والصراعات على المال أو الموارد. هي دي يعني النقطتين اللي دايما الصراعات بتبقى موجودة أو محصورة فيهم. يمكن إحنا بدورنا هنقدر نأثر أكتر في جزء الصراعات أو في الدوائر اللي فيها صراعات دينية، بحكم من رجال دين أو متخصصين في حوار الأديان. والجزء ده مش سهل، لأن يمكن دايما التأثير على تغيير الفكر أصعب، وقياس الأثر ليه أصعب من شغل التنمية المستدامة في مجالات أخرى زي محو الأمية وتحسين المسكن والقوافل العلاجية وخلافه. ده يمكن بيبقى أسهل في التنفيذ وتأثيره أنا بشوفه وقتي، لكن التأثير على العقلية وتغيير الفكر وتغيير الاتجاه بيبقى صعب ومش سهل، وبيعوز شغل كتير، وقياسه برضه مش سهل، لأن ممكن يبقى في حد بيبني يعني تعاون في موضوع ما فيما يخص خطاب الكراهية مثلا أو في حوار الأديان، ولكن لو تواجد في مشكلة حقيقية أو فيها يعني حاجة طائفية تلقاه شوية بإيه لأ متغير، أو يعني بيميل لكفة ناحية ضد الكفة التانية، فدي مشكلة. فعشان كده قصة التنمية الثقافية أو شغل الحوار على الأديان والطائفية مش سهل. كمان بنشوف إن الأبحاث وآراء المتخصصين رصدت إن المشكلة دي لو ما تعالجتش خلال الفترة اللي جاية 50% من سكان المجتمعات الفقيرة الفترة الجاية هتعاني من الصراعات اللي موجودة دي. ونشر السلام والحكم الرشيد في مجتمعاتنا ما بقاش رفاهية، ده بقت حاجة أساسية لازم تتواجد لو احنا حبينا فعلا يبقى في تنمية حقيقية أو تنمية مستدامة في مجتمعاتنا. أنا شايف عشان نحقق أو نوصل للتنمية المستدامة لازم أكتر من طرف يتكاتف مع بعض ويكملوا شغل بعض، زي البرلمانات في البلدان بتاعتنا، المجتمع المدني، المؤسسات التنشئة الاجتماعية، والمجتمع الدولي. على كل فئة من دي دور كبير. لو احنا مثلا بصينا لجزء البرلمانات، عليه انه يسن تشريعات وقوانين الفترة الجاية تجرم من خطاب الكراهية، واي حد بيبقى داعم لخطاب الكراهية المفروض يبقى فيه قوانين يعني رادعة لمن يعني ينشر الفكر ده في المجتمعات اللي احنا بننادي فيها. الجزء الثاني برضو على البرلمانات ان هي تعمل قوانين وتسن تشريعات جديدة فيما يخص قضايا الاستثمار والتنمية الاقتصادية في المجتمعات الفقيرة، لأن برضو بيبقى ليها دور في جزء نشر الفكر المتطرف أو الإرهاب. يمكن المجتمعات النامية بتتأثر خالص بجزء الجانب الاقتصادي. يعني أنا شايف إن ما يبقى مش من الطبيعي إن يبقى في حد مش لاقي ياكل واجي أنا أحكي له عن المواطنة وقبول الآخر والتعايش المشترك وهو مش لاقي ياكل أصلا. فيعني أنا شايف إن أنا أوفر له الحاجات الأساسية اللي توفر له حياة كريمة، وبعد كده أبدأ أشتغل على فكره وأبدأ أحكي معاه على تغيير آراءه ووجهات نظره. دي مهمة جدا. النقطة الثانية إن أنا أوفر له الجزء الصحي أو التأمين الصحي الشامل. ده هيفرق معاه. أنا ظني أنا لو وفرت في جزء التعليم وجزء الصحة للمجتمعات اللي فعلا بتعاني من مشاكل اقتصادية هقدر أشتغل عليها بعد كده في تغيير الفكر بتاعهم. عشان برضو ما أطولش، أخيرا في فئات لازم أشاركها أو تشاركني دايما طول ما أنا بخطط لتحقيق الهدف بتاعي والوصول لمجتمعات سلمية، زي الأطفال والشباب، زي المرأة، زي الدور العبادة لازم يبقى ليها دور معايا، القوى الناعمة اللي بنسميها زي مثلا الفن والرياضة لازم يبقى ليه دور معايا، لأن الشباب كتير بتتأثر بلاعبين الكورة والممثلين وخلاف. شكرا.
بارك الله فيك. Thanks a lot, Bishoy. I'm now pleased to introduce the second panelist, María del Milagro Dallacaminá, who's also from the same International Fellows Cohort 2016. She's from work of Mary for Locare Movement Argentina. María del Milagro is a professional of the international relations and mediator. She is currently working in the field of community mediation and in a project against trafficking in human beings. Since her university days, she has been interested in human rights and their relationship with interculturality. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear brothers and sisters, good morning. I am honored to be part of this panel. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. From my context, from my cultural, religious, family, geographical, educational background, I will answer this question. What are the main areas in which religious actors and educators need to be committed to promote peaceful societies? The main contribution I would like to make is that to build peaceful societies, we need to work untiringly for all the 17 SDGs, because everything is interconnected. Peaceful itself is an immense challenge, impossible to address from a single point of view. Therefore, solutions must also come from all possible sources of wisdom. To address peace, we must think creatively, multidimensionally, because we must create and recreate it in our religious institutions, in our temples, in our schools, in our streets, in ourselves. I would like to highlight 3 main points that we must consider in relation to peace as a contribution from the religious sphere. First, peace is inseparable from social justice. Justice and peace kiss each other, says a beautiful psalm, Psalm 84. So, what does it mean for me? Social justice is a concept of fair and just relations between the individual and society. This means that more rights, more education and health, more inclusion, more equity, more social justice cause more peaceful societies. And on the other hand, peaceful societies generate greater rights, more education and health. So it becomes a virtuous circle. So the second point is that peace is inseparable from integral human development, as you were saying, Bishoy, as well. As Pope Paul VI said, development is the new name of peace. Development not understood as economic growth, but the development of all men and women and development of the whole person. Development of all men and women, what does it mean? It means that no one can be left behind. Indigenous, migrant, refugee, children, elderly, white, black, male, female, no one can be left behind. It means also that there is peace for all or for no one. It means also that it is necessary to hear all the voices, like a beautiful song in Spanish that says, todas las voces, todas las manos, todas, all voices, all hands, all. And the second point is development of the whole person. As Professor Patrice Brodeur used to tell us when we had lessons with him, it is important to involve head, heart, and hands. I will give you only 2 examples. In Argentina, there is a doctor, Abel Albino, who emphasized the nutrition of children under 2 years old, which is the age at which neuronal connections occur in children. Also the importance of affection at this stage of life. This type of care allows children to grow healthy, that will allow them to be able to learn, to have better health and more confidence. This is, from my point of view, a contribution to peace. In Chile, there was a teacher and psychologist who conceived the biodanza, dancing groups with a deep connection with life, with the nature, with everything around us. Dance as poetry of the human encounter, biocentric, not anthropocentric. To me, this is also a contribution to peaceful societies. And the third point is peace is inseparable from the care of the planet. Just to say 2 words, to highlight 2 points. War and conflicts always causes serious damage to the environment and the cultural wealth of the populations. And also access to natural resources will be a source of new conflicts. So religious leaders and educators, what contributions can we make to peace, apart from contributing to the achievement of all SDGs? I think that we can open the treasures of our religions. Given the complexity of the challenge of peaceful societies, we need to realize that the solutions will not emerge from just one way of interpreting and transforming reality. Respect must also be shown for the various cultural riches of different peoples, their art and poetry, their interior life and spirituality. It is Laudato Si. So open the treasures of our religions, open the treasures of other sciences, poetry, literature, think solutions with creativity. We need to remember that the 5 P's, people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnerships, are deeply interconnected. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Maria. Now I'm pleased to introduce the 3rd panelist, Reverend Ishanesu Sextus Gusha, who is from the International Fellows cohort, no, the African cohort, 2018, and he's coming from the Diocese of Harare, Zimbabwe. Reverend Gusha is an Anglican church cleric from the Diocese of Harare. He worked with the church for the past 15 years. He is a lecturer in biblical studies and biblical Greek. He is currently lecturing at 2 colleges where church leaders are trained in the country. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. Without wasting much of your time, let me go straight into the business of the day. As you know, we're talking of the Sustainable Development Goal number 16. So coming back from the context of Zimbabwe in Africa, let me just give a brief statistics of how religious landscape is like. For example, the last census with 15 million people, and of all those 15 million people, 10 million are Christians, who constitutes 85% of the country's population. Then from there, we also have a sizable number of other religions, particularly the second largest religion is Islam, with almost 14%. Then we have African traditional religions and other minority religions constituting 1% of the total population. So from this context, the role of religion cannot be undermined in influence in terms of public policy. Hence, in our context, sometimes that has been looked down upon by the state machinery or the government. So at the end of the day, as we deal with the contributions of IRD in promoting peace, peaceful society and inclusion, we need to look at how religions have been operating in our context. Because of these statistics, you'd realize that because the country is predominantly Christian, most Christians have taken refuge in numbers, and they have never intended to have RAD, thinking that because they constitute many numbers, therefore they can give solutions to the societal challenges. But for years, we've realized that that does not work. Hence, at the end of the day, we think that at the end of the day, after raising conscientizing the society for many years on the importance of IRD in our society, religious leaders were resisting it, and there was always a hermeneutic of suspicion. Why would people want to bring us together, especially those who belong to the majority? But this year, then the inauguration of the first RAD platform was done in October, when an Interreligious Council of Zimbabwe was formed, after realizing that the government was taking advantage of our lack of unity, especially among different religions. What was there was more like intra-religious dialogue, whereby Christians, they would try to dialogue among themselves, especially those Christians who come from different backgrounds, through ecumenical bodies. So today, as we look at IRD in our context, it's now beginning to take shape. And as we are speaking now, we've inaugurated a temporal leadership that is looking at the constitution of IRD. Several IRD projects have been done in isolation without inculcating everybody. But now everyone is now being brought to the book. So at the end of the day, we are looking, why are we interested in interreligious dialogue from our own perspective, especially when we see how the minorities are not being void in the decision policy making. Because sometimes when you look at IRD, we can do it at different platforms. For example, we can have IRD just for theological reflection. We can have we can encounter IRD in life experiences. Then we can have IRD for common action. And this was what was lacking, IRD for our common action. Hence, our forming of this Interreligious Council of Zimbabwe, we're trying now to see how we can work together to come up with the solutions and also engage the authorities that are governing our land. So today, the question that we need to ask, to respond to, how does interreligious dialogue necessitate the inclusion of other religions and minority groups in policy-making and decision-making process? Firstly, interreligious dialogue creates an opportunity for all religions to be noticed and valued through the exchange of notes in those platforms. Then secondly, interreligious dialogue would help to conscientize of the other, in the conscientization of the other by a deep understanding of the values of the other. Interreligious dialogue would also help in removing the negative perceptions of the other that have been created by lack of that dialogue. Then interreligious dialogue will also help to reduce essentialism of religious boundaries that can impede on the participation by the other. Then through interreligious dialogue again, we can help to create platforms that can also promote those marginalized groups that are not given the time to speak on the behalf of their constituents. When it comes to minorities, particularly women and children, our religions have also been found wanting, because through their sacred scriptures, sacred writings, they've been also sidelining those minority groups. So through our interreligious dialogue platforms, we're trying to conscientize one another. How can we raise those groups that are being marginalized? So the role of religious actors and religious dialogue work in reducing forms of violence. How can we reduce forms of violence? First of all, we need to eliminate hate speech through our sermons and other public discourses. We also need to engage dialogue with other persons of other religions, especially among the followers, in order to eliminate negative perceptions of the other. We also need to form interreligious dialogue platforms in order to loosen those institutionalized boundaries. And lastly, we also need to promote interreligious action on national issues, especially on issues that promote peace and social justice. Lastly, priority areas of engagement in order to reduce violence that we're engaging in. One is gender. We wanted to reduce issues of gender-based violence, particularly even among those religious leaders. Two, politicians, in order to eliminate political violence during and after elections. Three, government, in order to strengthen weak institutions like the judiciary, military, and the police. And lastly, our educational institutions, in order to eliminate those negative perceptions on the other. These are things that we're working on now in terms of our ARID for peace in our own context.
Thank you, Reverend. Now I'm pleased to introduce the fourth panelist, Zainab Al-Amin, who is from the international, the Arab cohort, Fellows cohort 2018, and who is coming from Al-Amin Foundation, لتعارفوا in Lebanon. She's a dialogue practitioner. She's working with the foundation, which is an Islamic organization. She's building bridges between people from different faiths in the country. She will speak Arabic and simultaneous translation will be provided. مرحبا.
مرحبا. بسم الله. السلام عليكم. إن منطق الحوار والسلام ركيزتان رافقتا وجود اللبنة الأولى من الخلق، وقد لفت الله تعالى إليهما عناية عباده من خلال دروس تعليمية وتربوية هادفة إلى ترسيخ معانيهما وأهميتهما في حياة بني البشر الذين جعلهم تبارك وتعالى شعوبا وقبائل في الأرض، وطلب منهم التعارف، وجعل ميزان الأفضلية الاستقامة التي عبر عنها في الآية المباركة بالتقوى، فقال: يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. ومن المعلوم أن التعارف لا يحتاج إليه وما يترتب عليه لا يحصل إلا من خلال الاطلاع على تعاليم الآخر وفهمه من خلاله هو ومن خلال منطق التلاقي والحوار. وهنا نشير إلى مسألة مهمة نستفيدها في سياق آيات القرآن الكريم في الحوار الذي جرى بين الله تعالى والملائكة وحتى إبليس الذي عصى ربه. وهذا الأمر هو درس كبير لنا نفقه أهمية الحوار ودوره في حياتنا. والأمر الآخر الذي نستفيده من سلوك الأنبياء في دعوتهم إلى الحوار، كما في قصة النبي موسى وهارون عليه السلام مع فرعون، حيث طلب منهما محاورة الطاغية فرعون، فقولا له قولا لينا لعله يتذكر أو يخشى. وفي قوله تعالى: وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. وفي قوله سبحانه: ادعوا إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة. وغيرها الكثير من المواعظ والدروس التي نستفيد منها قيمة في الحوار والسلام. ولذلك ومن خلال هذه المعاني المتواترة في الأديان نفقه أن الحوار يمثل عنصراً رئيسياً بالغ الأهمية لتحقيق التفاهم وصناعة حياة أفضل بين بني البشر. إن من يسعى للحوار ونبذ المذهبية والطائفية يسير في طريق محفوف بالمخاطر، خاصة وسط عالم تحكمه المصالح والسلطة باسم الدين، فيتحول من يسعى للحوار وتوحيد الصف إلى متهم بالعمالة، بل يصل الأمر إلى التحريض الجدي على القتل. منذ أيام يتعرض والدي السيد علي الأمين لحملة تشويه كبيرة في لبنان وصلت حد إراقة دمه ودعوات للاعتقال لمجرد مشاركته في مؤتمر للحوار الديني في البحرين شارك فيه مدعوون من مختلف الأديان والثقافات، من مسلمين ومسيحيين ويهود وسيخ وبوذيين، وهو ما اعتبره البعض خيانة للإسلام والعروبة. رغم التنوع الديني في لبنان ورغم أن المدعوين لا يعرفون بعضهم بطبيعة الحال ولا يعرفون هويات بعضهم سوى أنهم بشر خلقهم الله، ولمجرد صور جماعية ضمت جميع الحضور في المؤتمر لتتحول الصورة إلى دليل إدانة وحيثية عندهم لدعوات القتل والتصفية لوالدي. هنا سألقي كلمة صغيرة سأتلو عليكم جزء من كلمة والدي التي تم على أثرها حملة التشويه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على الرسول الأمين وعلى جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى جميع عباد الله الصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. هذا المؤتمر الذي يجمع قيادات دينية متنوعة من مختلف الديانات والثقافات للبحث عن أوجه المقاربة بين الحريات الدينية وبين وجوه الازدهار والتقدم في المجتمع. ولا شك بأن للدين دورا إيجابيا في عملية الازدهار التي تسعى إليها المؤسسات العاملة، لأن الدين يعتبر مصدرا للقيم الروحية والأخلاقية والإنسانية التي يحتاجها العمل في نجاحه. والدين هو الذي يدفع باتجاه التعارف والتواصل بين الشعوب والأمم، كما في قوله تعالى: يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. فالدين يقول للبشر بأن أصلكم واحد، وهذا التنوع الموجود بينكم ليس لامتياز لبعضكم على بعض وليس للانغلاق، بل هو للتعارف الذي ينبثق عنه التواصل والعلاقات الثقافية وغيرها. إن طريق الحوار والتواصل ليس بالسهل ولا الهين، ولكن أبي علمنا ونحن أبناؤه على طريقه في بناء الحوار والوئام سارعون من أجل نشر المحبة والسلام. شكرا.
بارك الله فيكم. شكرا زينب لهذه الكلمة المؤثرة. Thank you, Zainab. Now I'm pleased to introduce the last but not the least panelist, Zon Vanel. She's from the Southeast Asia Fellows Cohort 2016. She's coming from Satya Vakana Christian University in Indonesia. Zon Vanel is a lecturer at the Public Relations Program at Satya Vakana Christian University in Central Java. She holds a master's degree in mass communication studies. She's actively involved in research at the university and community services in her hometown of Solo in Indonesia. Welcome again, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Since the short time, I will be precise with my PowerPoint. So the background of the my paper, which is Context in Indonesia, that the fourth industrial revolutions take the automations of monitoring processes to a new level by introducing customized and flexible mass production technology. That this means machine will operate independently or cooperate with humans in creating a customer-oriented production field that constantly works in maintaining itself. The question is, how will machine communicate? The idea behind Industrial Revolution 4.0 is to create a social network where machines can communicate with each other. It is called the Internet of Things, Internet of Peoples, and Internet of Services. This is what we have every day, that everything will be digitalized. Since everything is digitalized, so of course there will be a challenge and a big threat in the Industrial Revolutions 4.0, which is security. The online integration will give room to security breaches and data leaks, and also privacy. So this privacy matter will lead to the cyber threat spectrum, with its hacktivism, crime, insider, espionage, terrorism, and warfare. Okay. Excuse me, this is not working. So, okay. So the cyber threat spectrum and then lead to the other methods, which is the violences on the net, such as gender-based violence, hate speech, racism, blasphemy, defamation, and etc. And let's see in here. This is the examples of the online gender-based violence, like blackmail, stalking, pornography, cyber trafficking, scamming, misogynistic, hate speech, and many things. And then I give you examples in the context of the Indonesia that the violence on the net usually happened and very massively happen when the election is coming.
Maybe you address your
okay.
not for the monitor.
Okay, thank you. So during the survey, the 90% of Indonesian secondary students state that intolerance exists and it is an important issue of young people in the country. And 70% of Indonesian secondary students will feel that terrorism and religious divides are greatest threat to the country. Not only that, there is also a serious issues that I've talked about, that is privacy, and now we are going to the security. Just continue. So the issues is about the 21st century digital book. I'm sure everyone in here using having a bank account and then email, medical record and everything, and it will be saved in the big data. And it is actually part of our security and privacy breaches could leak and it could harm us. So security threat actually peeping of our privacy. So to understand this issue, we need to train the youth about what is digital peacebuilding. Is it working? Okay. So what it mean that with someone leaking your private life, that this isn't freedom. By using your cell phone, you think it is freedom, but actually this is fear. Like this is just an example that China is building a big data platform. Actually, this is to peeping your privacy life and you're threatening your security. And this is what user Facebook. I'm sure every one of you using social media. And also, this is what your Gmail said every day when it said it is saving your all of your data. If you not believe me, then type your name in the Google search, and then comes out everything, your digital trace there. So we know who is this, the Edward Snowden, the one who said and aware us about what happened in this world about the security and privacy thing. So how we teach you using the digital peacebuilding. Okay. Yeah. So in this digital building, we try to teach the participant how to distinguish the online-based violence, which is the anonymity, and then accessibility, action under days, automation, propagations, and perpetuity. Okay. And we need to address them by document, monitor, report, and files. And then we need to strengthen the digital security skills and manage our online identity. And then also we teach them about the conflict transformations. The conflict transformation core, the first phase is about contradictions that change to a negative attitude and then change our behavior to be bad. And then we shifting from contradiction, shifting it into good behavior, change good attitude, and contradictions. Excuse me. So this is the result of the training. Thank you.
Thank you, Zon. Thank you all for these inspiring contributions. Now, we're going to start a Q&A session. We are now happy to welcome questions, remarks, or comments. We have approximately 30 minutes, and please raise your hands. Having in mind the questions raised earlier, as well as the presentations by the panelists. Please be very short and to the point, 1 minute to 2 maximum per question. And please start by reminding your name, your institution, and your country as well. Thank you. Starting from.
Thank you so much. My name is Faris Kti. I'm from Iraq, advisor of the Supreme Yazidi Spiritual Council. My question is for Ms. Zainab from Lebanon. سؤالي هو بخصوص إنه في مجتمعاتنا العربية في الدول العربية خصوصاً عادة في العراق أيضاً هنالك هجوم على الأشخاص الذين يحاولون تغيير المفاهيم الخاطئة السابقة في عدم قبول الآخر أو تحديد الحوار فقط مثلاً مع الأديان الإبراهيمية فقط وعدم الخروج من هذا الإطار وفق نصوص محددة أو أمور محددة. وعادة عندما يحاول شخص مثل ما فعله والدك بالخروج من هذا الإطار يكون هنالك هجوم على هؤلاء الأشخاص وتسقيطهم بالأخص في التواصل الاجتماعي. هل تعتقدين بالإمكان تحقيق أهداف التنمية المستدامة في هكذا مجتمعات؟ شكرا.
شكرا. Let's continue here.
نعم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يعني أنا بداية يعني بمناسبة أن الأمم المتحدة ستحتفل في الأسبوع القادم باليوم العالمي أنا محمد أمين من الأردن، يعني يا ريت لو تجاوزنا الموضوع. برجع بعيد بما أنه الأمم المتحدة يعني ستحتفل في الأسبوع القادم باليوم العالمي للغة العربية، فأنا سوف أتحدث باللغة العربية. أنا أول شيء يعني التخصيص السؤال إنه لماذا في الدول العربية يتم اضطهاد أصحاب الديانات غير الإبراهيمية. يعني أنا ضد التخصيص. يعني إذا تحدثنا يا ريت لو يكون الحديث بشكل عام. السؤال نحن كقادة دينيين كيف سنقنع مجتمعاتنا بضرورة الحوار وضرورة أن نتبنى منهج الحوار طالما أن الدين لا نستطيع فصله عن السياسة. موضوع أن دول قائمة على أساس ديني، دول تتحدث باسم الرب، تتحدث باسم الله، ثم تدعم التطرف والإرهاب. دول قد تحتل دول أخرى باسم الرب، قد تخرج شعوب من بلادها باسم الرب وتقيم دولتها باسم الرب. ثم ألا تجدون بأنه سوف نظهر بمظهر الذي يضحك على شعبه عندما يقول له ثم اجلس تعاون أو تحاور مع هذا الذي يعني يقود هذه الحملة على العالم أجمع باسم الرب. يعني
شكرا جزيلا. ملاحظات نرحب بالملاحظات كذلك. We welcome remarks and comments, not only questions. So let's take questions from the left.
Thank you. My name is Amanah Nurish, International Fellow 2016. I think I would like to address, maybe can be both comments or questions to our colleague Millie. Yeah, I think I do agree that actually what development means is not only about the material issue, but this is more peaceful issue, or it can be the spiritual issue that we need to rise more and more. So, but the problem that actually in the revolution of industry, somehow we are now seeking more like, everything can be more material, So this is what we are facing today, actually, somehow in the global context. Now we have serious problem on spiritual decline. So what the development doesn't always connects with the spiritual or peaceful project, but this is more always about the buildings, contractions, economy, and so forth. So I think, in like Indonesian context, we have indigenous belief that very strong to make people happy and peaceful. But since the revolution of industry, people also become more, decline in terms of understanding what spiritual means. So yeah, I think that's very important. Maybe you can tell more about this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rajendra Century, and I'm from Nepal. Thank you, everyone, for your enlightening peace insights. This morning, Maya talked about, Maya, director of conflict sensitivity and peacebuilding with World Vision. She talked about the necessity of inclusion. And also, the first question posed to this panel was about how to have inclusion of marginalized communities and the women. So I have a little bit thought, as you said, not only question, remarks. So how important it is to have inclusion and gender equality for the peace building. When we contemplate on this question, it is also, I think, very important to think about the peaceful states and what make those peaceful states peaceful, and what is in the DNA that makes them peaceful. So that is also, I think, quite important. I came to hear about these kind of words from Yusuf Muhammad. He's from Tunisia, and I was having a training in GCS, Geneva Center for Security Policy in Geneva. He, giving his example from his country, said that gender equality is very important for peace building. He said, like Tunisia, despite having so much of rampant corruption, economic stagnation, political and the terrorism threats and all, despite having those things, still relatively peaceful because it has heavily encouraged inclusion of the women. For example, 85% of the students in secondary level are women, 60% of the dentists are women, 40% of those entering into judiciary are women, and 47% of those who are in local parliament, local government are women. So that makes, as per Yusuf Mohammed, that makes Tunisia a resilient country, a peaceful country. So having said that, this has also been corroborated by the researches and data. The book called Sex and the World Peace, Columbia University Press 2012, says that the social gender equality or gender inclusion is better predictor of peace than human rights, than democracy, and also than religion. So my question is, if religion and gender equality is that much important, even than religion, so how do we ensure to have the religious, to have women representation and women inclusion in religious leaderships? So that question for any of you or all of you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. We'll take a last question for the first round. Here, please. And then we'll allow the panelists to start responding to some questions, and then we'll revert back to the questions again. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Father Nami Saliba from the Greek Orthodox Church in Lebanon. Since we are in an interfaith dialogue toward peace building, I like to put on the table that the notion of other is secular. In Christianity, there is a notion of beloved neighborhood, or in Arabic translation, there is the notion of you are my nephew, and that makes a big difference. So my question is for Egypt region and also for the Lebanese region. What about religious freedom? Religious freedom is a main stone, and we didn't hear about it. So there is any activity towards religious freedom, or we just missed that in our dialogue, and why we do that? Thank you.
Thank you. So you can respond to any of the questions. Please be very short to enable others to raise other questions as well. تفضل.
يعني هو أنا بس عايز السؤال اللي هو طرحه فارس، إيه أسباب انتشار الأفكار المتطرفة بالشكل ده في مجتمعاتنا يعني العربية تقريبا؟ أنا شايف إن هي عندنا مشكلة عموما من زمان في قصة أو في ثقافة قبول الآخر بشكل عام، يعني حتى مش بس المختلف عن ديني، يعني هي ثقافة موروثة يمكن مش بتترسخ بشكل عملي، وده اللي احنا المفروض نعمله الفترة الجاية، إن أنا أشتغل على الشباب الصغير أو على الأطفال بشكل عملي، أغرس القيم دي بواقعية جوه فكر الأطفال عشان يطلع حد مستنير وسوي. وظني إن يعني اللي طالع في بيئة بالشكل ده هيورث الأفكار دي لأولاده، لكن دي عندنا ممكن تبقى ثقافة شوية محتاجة شغل كتير الفترة اللي جاية، بالإضافة للمشاكل الاقتصادية عندنا ليها دور في القصة دي، ونسبة الفقر يعني بتعمل يعني تأثير جامد في قصة قبول الآخر. يعني زي ما أنا يمكن قلت، ما يبقى واحد مش لاقي ياكل اقعد احكي معاه عن قبول الآخر والتسامح وهو مش لاقي ياكل أصلا، فدي بتبقى مشكلة. الحاجة الثالثة ممكن يبقى نسبة التعليم برضو أو الثقافة التعليمية برضو في بعض البلدان فيها مشكلة، تبقى في ناس لغاية دلوقتي في بعض مش عارفة تكتب أساميها مثلا يعني، ودي موجودة في بعض المجتمعات، فهي محتاجة شغل كتير. المبادرات المجتمعية بحكم مثلا أنا دوري بشتغل في مؤسسة مجتمع مدني، هي أكتر وسيلة أقدر استخدمها عشان أوصل القيم دي وأقدر أوصل المفاهيم دي، إن أنا أعمل مبادرات مجتمعية على أرض الواقع يشترك فيها أطراف كتيرة في أماكن محددة، أبقى فوكس جدا عليها، أبقى حريص إن أنا أشارك كل الفئات، ما جنبش فئة معينة، أبقى حريص إن يبقى حتى من أول التخطيط للتنفيذ معايا الأطفال والشباب والمرأة ورجل الدين الإسلامي والمسيحي، يبقى معايا قصور الثقافة، يبقى معايا الجامعات، يبقى معايا بعض المدارس. واحنا يمكن انا وزمايلي من مصر من مؤسسة يعني من سيوس مينا ويوسف، احنا بنعمل كده فعلا، يعني احنا بنختار مجتمع كنموذج في قرية يبقى فيها بعض المشكلات الطائفية ويبقى فيها مشكلة في ثقافة قبول الآخر بشكل حقيقي، واعمل مبادرة بجد وانزل وازور البيوت واجمع الناس واعمل دورات رياضية وفرق كورة مسلمين ومسيحيين واعمل أنشطة ثقافية، واقدر من خلال الأنشطة دي أغرس القيم دي جوه الأطفال.
Any other comments from the panelists or responses?
اللي سألت عنه طريق طويل وصعب، بس لازم نضل نحس عليه وبكلماتنا نتحدث عن التعاون والتواصل وعن الحريات الدينية وعن وعن رفض الكراهية والتمييز وعن الحقوق اللي لازم تحترم. الأفكار كل هالأفكار الجيدة تبعد مجتمعاتنا عن الانقسامات والنزاعات اللي لكن تحتاج إلى تقنين، وإلا نحتاج إلى قانون دولي يلزم بالحريات الدينية ويجرم خطاب الكراهية والتمييز، ونحتاج إلى الكتاب التعليمي الذي يتضمن تلك التعاليم ويحولها إلى ثقافة عالمية تحملها أجيال المستقبل وترسخ التعايش السلمي بين الأمم والشعوب. فمش لازم نيأس، لازم يضل ورا هالشيء.
شكرا. Thanks a lot. Now I suggest that we take another set of questions, but I would like really to highlight the importance of also making recommendations. We would like to end this panel with a set of recommendations, with a summary also of the discussions that will be presented on our behalf by the rapporteurs to the plenary session. So, Sharon.
Thank you. I'm not one of the cohorts, but my name is Sharon Rosen, and I'm the Global Director for Religious Engagement of Search for Common Ground, which is a very large peace-building organization around the world. A couple of points, one of them in relation to the understanding or meaning of peace, because what we have found is that peace means different things to different people and different religions. And therefore, peace needs to be translated or at least discussed to understand deeply what that means. And I think, Maria, you were talking about how peace is development, peace is many, as the Pope said, or it embraces so many different things, and that really needs to be looked at carefully. The other one is the question of what dialogue is, because we have also found that dialogue, while basic and fundamental to bringing people together, is often not enough, and that there needs to be a concrete issue of common interest to the people, to people you are trying to bring together, in order for them to have an interest in taking part in the first place. And I was interested in listening to you, Zon, as you were speaking, because I was wondering where you were going to as you were talking about the digital age. But here is one very creative, innovative way of bringing young people together around the issues that are interesting for them in order to get them to start talking about how privacy and security actually has a lot to do with their own safety, religion, freedom of religion, and so on. So I think my general question here would be, what are the creative, other innovative ways that bring people together around a common interest that can galvanize that dialogue and then action?
Thank you for this valuable contribution. Let's continue here. So questions, but also recommendations. Please also make some recommendations.
Thank you very much. My name is Sani Suleiman. I'm from Nigeria, member of the Nigeria Interreligious Council, but also working with Mexico, Nigeria as a deputy chief of party. The similarities between the co-inherent principle of religion and those of the Sustainable Development Goals are very strong. Issues of social welfare, caretaking, and so on and so forth. But in reality, I want to ask all the panelists, how best from your experience can we work as civil society to move religious leaders to action in terms of working collaboratively in a very effective way to address the shared challenges faced by people as human beings, because religious leaders tend to be primarily more responsible to their primary constituency than working together to see and work and address issues that are around the shared challenges of people. The Reverend from Zimbabwe, you touched on issues of ecumenism. And from the experience of my work, I saw that where you have weak ecumenism in terms of having strong intra-religious engagement, that tends to affect also the quality and effectiveness of interreligious dialogue. How can you share with us your experiences on your successes in strengthening ecumenism in your country and the linkage in terms of the success of a strong ecumenism contributing to better, effective, and strong interreligious engagement in your country? Thank you.
Thank you. Here, please, Mai.
Yes. Hi, my name is Mohammed Raqil. I'm from Salam for Cultural Communication from Saudi Arabia. So I would like to thank the panelists for really great insights that they give. towards linking the SDGs to the different objectives and different interreligious faith. So my question is regarding Ms. Zon. She gives really great presentation. It's about what is the role of religious people towards building more secure platform in the internet. So there is the internet of services and the internet of things, basically. Because it doesn't necessarily that the hacking coming from the government. It's coming from people who are in the social engineering, in the black hackers or what they call. So what is the role of people towards having a really healthy platform into supporting white, I wouldn't say white hacking, but I would say into more ethical, or to promote the ethical principles towards building a secure platform. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Nishant from Sri Lanka. From my experiences, I have seen in Sri Lanka that the mobilization of religious identities has become a root cause of religious conflict in Sri Lanka. So each religious groups try to mobilize their own religious identities in a multicultural, pluralistic society. And also, rather than promoting shared values, they really focus on their own core values. So, and also, I have seen that, and also, my recommendation is that how we can promote inclusive political decision making. In Sri Lanka, we have seen that though it's a pluralistic society, our decision of political leaders in current current government, only the majority of Buddhist community, representing the Buddhist community, how they can take inclusive decision in terms of everything. So it is always better, my recommendation. Another recommendation is that how we can promote structural changes in the society, which include sustainable peace, and also the changes in relationships and personal relationship, and also the cultural and religious changes or the transformation in the society need to be done. Otherwise, we'll be promoting our own religious identities that will cause creating more religious conflict in our countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, from this side.
Sandra Karam from the Orthodox Church in Lebanon. Okay, my question is for the last panelist. Okay, it's about social media. We all know that we face issues of security and privacy in social media. And sometimes the individual, we cannot feel safe in this zone or platform. So how do you think we can use social media effectively to promote peace?
Thank you. Now we have a good set of questions to continue the discussion, but I would like really you to also do some recommendations, how religious leaders and actors can better contribute to the peace processes. Yeah. Natalie?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. My name is Natalie Aziut. I work with Communities in Transition. And my question recommendation is how do we walk the talk? And I was interested in finding how your respective organization have integrated dialogic principles within the institutions that you represent themselves. So collaborative decision-making, inclusive conversation, all of the things that make dialogue so powerful when we do it to others. And I just want to know how organizationally you guys have integrated those same principles.
Thank you. We still have time for two other questions. Yes, at right. Or recommendations.
Hello, my name is María del Milagro. I'm from Saudi Arabia. So I just want to go back to yesterday. One of the ladies talked about how can we empower the grassroots? How can we go to the people themselves and empower them to start their own initiatives? We have global leaders here or religious leaders here. What we need them to give us their way of empowering people to start their own initiatives. They can start their own programs, and they can influence young people, and they can influence youth more faster than the people on the top. So how can they empower the people, the one are in the grassroots? Thank you.
This is both a question and recommendation, empowering grassroots level to conduct interfaith and dialogue initiatives, and this is exactly what an institution like KAICIID is doing and others. Any other last question or recommendation or comments? Yes, here, please.
شكرا. كنت عايز أسأل فين دور اتحاد البرلمان الدولي؟ ليه احنا بنشتغل، احنا بنتكلم عن البيس وجاستيك، يبقى احنا محتاجين البرلمان الدولي، وفي برلمان دولي معروف في جنيف، بس انا مش عارف فين دوره واحنا ليه بنشتغل بمعزل عنه. جايز احنا لما نتكلم معاه ونشجعه يبقى في لقاءات بين كايسيد وبين الاتحاد البرلمان، ممكن قوي يبقى في زي قوانين او رولز او حاجات زي كده بتعمم على مستوى العالم من جهة حقوق الأديان او غيره.
Thank you. Now we'll give the panelists the opportunity to address or respond to the questions. And after they respond, then we will give the floor to the chair of the session for his final remarks. Thank you. The floor is yours. We can start. Yeah.
Okay. I will questions from the gentleman from the Nepal before, because it's not being answered yet by us in here. Okay, about if religions and gender equality is important, so how it will work in the religious institutions, especially for women. The problem is we have to know two things. One, the sacred text, I hope all the ladies in here agree, the sacred text is actually male domination, contain do and don't for the women. The second is, if we want to show the gender equality for the women, so we need to talk about the context. The sacred text was being taught long, long ago, and now everything is changes, because we live in a religion as a product of the culture. Clifford Kidd said that. But we have to know that if we want to move, then we need to be relative and dynamic, because that is the taste of the culture. So if we want to move, then we have to be equal with the women. So equality should be addressed, start from the intra, I mean our own religions, such as this is also answer the questions of how religious leaders to work together to address issues of violence. So I will say that during to my context in Indonesia, my own experience, when I have to train the hardliners group, they're pointing at me, who are you there to treat us? You're only a woman. You're not supposed to teach us, because I'm the one who is imam and I'm the one who is teach you, not you to teach us. Because they know that the context that being interpreted is actually very subjective. If I want to be honest, who's got write their own sacred text? No religions of that. We have to think about that logic. So I will move to the to the third questions. Then the third questions about the understanding of peace and the understanding of dialogue, and what creative and innovative ways to have a dialogues. In Indonesian context, I would try to apply for the digital. Why the digital? Because we are already entering the revolution industry in 4.0, and we are the coming up is on 5.4.0. Everything will be digitalized. So we need to go with the technology, because we cannot avoid the technology. So willing or not, the manual thing that we used to teach about peace and dialogue should be shifting to the digital phase. While our children every day wake up holding the cell phone, so why not use the cell phone in positive way by sending peace, by changes the counter narrative that being posed by these radical groups, by those who spread hate speech on the net. We try to counter it using the alternative narrative, using the digital platform. We can use it whether videos, posters, or even we can use it game online. In Indonesia, I also create a game online and also a game board, and also I and my students were using posters and also messages that we send through the YouTube and also Instagram. And then, okay, the number 4. The rules religions leader to work in a secure way to promote ethical security platform. This is also ensuring about the social media, how we can use social media wisely to promote peace. The problem is because social media is creating by company, and we know that company is usually profit. Because it is profit, then they will save your big data. Because they will save your big data, the problem is when the company is selling my personal identity to another third party. Have you ever get a message or a broadcast that suddenly, okay, there's a Black Friday, there's a sale. Actually, you may sue your provider. Why we have to sue the provider? Because the provider gave our identity, our private thing to another third party. So the secure ways is you have to don't use Gmail because Gmail is usually they are profit. Use Proton Mail. The Proton Mail is much better. Why? Because Proton Mail is NGO based, and the second is this is for email, yeah. So and your email after 3 days, sometimes if it's after 24 hours, it will be gone by own and not saved by the big data. It will be secure for you. And the other things about the ethical, when we are trying to post something, we need to know the rules. Never post about your private lives. Never put your relationships on the social media. I know some friends in the Facebook put that this is the husband, this is the children. This is very not secure. So just post it. And also, if you have children, don't post your children's face, because if they are trying to attacking you and you are still okay, they will go to your family. That is very yeah, that is the ethical way. So we have to be wise when we try to put something on there. We have to be wise, even for the comment, because our mind is really wild to control. When the contradiction goes to the behavior, when we are texting, sometimes our fingers could kill us on the net. That's why.
Thank you, Zon,
yeah,
for these valuable comments. Let's give the same opportunity to the others. Zainab, no? Reverend, please.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to respond on the question: how do we move our leaders? How do we move our religious leaders into action? This is a very difficult question, because if you rightly say, most of them, they are preoccupied with their constituencies. That's why, for example, in our own context, we've got 4 ecumenical bodies. So we don't talk of Christianity in Zimbabwe, but talk of Christianities. Because those 4 ecumenical organizations, they push different approaches to the faith. For example, we've got the Zimbabwe Catholic Bishops' Conference. These are the Catholics who decide to say we can move our own. Then we've got Zimbabwe Council of Churches that is made up of Protestants. Then the Evangelical Fellowship of Zimbabwe of Pentecostals. Then again, Apostolic Church and the Zionist churches, they've got their own organization. And this has been the weakening point that the politicians have utilized. Because sometimes when a certain view is posted by a certain ecumenical board, other ecumenical board can disown it, say we're not agreeing with that, and the politicians would make use of that. But lastly, they've tried to come up together now with what they call the head of all Christian denominations, where they'll take all heads from those ecumenical board so that they come up with one view. That has worked to a certain extent For example, in the early 80s, from 1981 to 1986, there was a genocide in our context, whereby a certain ethnic group, over 20,000 people were killed by the then President Robert Mugabe. Then at that time, they sat down as head of Christian denominations. They came up with a research as to what really transpired during that time and evidence of people who have disappeared. And they compiled a comprehensive report for the government so that that would be a starting point for reconciliation and social cohesion. But unfortunately, that document again was suppressed because they thought that it was representing a foreign ideology. Then later again, they produced another document that was called the Zimbabwe We Want, where they were highlighting all those social issues and how justice can be carried. And again, that document was also suppressed by the powers of the day. So at the end of the day, as we are speaking now, they've also produced another document where they say, I think we need to take a political Sabbath, whereby we'll stop elections for some time, because elections have become a platform for mass killings. And again, that is being resisted by the government. So that becomes the challenge, that in as much the ecumenical bodies can come together and pursue a certain agenda that helps people, the government would also at the same time find ways of responding or refraining from it. So at the end of the day, those are the challenges that we meet in our own context, that the government, whenever we do something, they'll find ways of labeling it. Particularly, they'll give it a Western take. No, this is not our ideology, it's a Western ideology. Then they try to use it as a scapegoat. That becomes our major challenge. But we are really working on that at the present moment. So in terms of dialogue, those are the issues that we are also looking at from that interreligious perspective. Then through this HO, Head of All Christian Denominations now, this is how now we are also engaging other regions to come up with an interreligious dialogue platform where now we can speak with one voice so that those leaders of the day cannot find a way to evade that proposal.
Thank you, Reverend. Maria? Please.
Okay, thanks for the questions. First, I will answer my friend Amana's question about the indigenous communities. I think that we have a lot to learn from these religious minorities as well. We, as Catholic or other Christians, wanted to convert or neglect a lot their wisdom, and I think that we have a lot to learn. For example, I work with indigenous communities in the north of Argentina, in the mountains, very, very close to Chile. And every day I say that we have a lot to learn, especially from peace and also for the caring of the nature. They have a lot to teach us. Briefly, this answer. Then our brother from Nigeria, who asked about strengthening ecumenism and in regard to the SDGs. I will give you an example. Who was? Here, thank you. Okay, I have an example in Argentina and other Latin American countries. That, for example, Red KAICIID, it's a network of religious, especially women, but there are men as well, who are preventing human trafficking in Argentina and 8 other Latin American countries. We know that slavery, that human trafficking is the slavery of our days. I was working hard with them as well. And I think it is a prophetic sign that they work together because they are from different congregations, different spiritualities, and in a world where each community, including religious communities, tend to work in isolation, I think it is a prophetic sign. And also, they are we tend to work with other Christian against human trafficking. So we are starting with it as well. And then the last brief question about the projects in our institutions. Natalie asked to know more about it. I am part of the Focolare movement, who is a worldwide movement who was born 75 years ago in Trento, Italy, and it is spread all over the world, and it looks for fraternity and among all religions and cultures and unity for Christians. And okay, I can say many things, but I will only tell you that we are also thinking how we can contribute from our work to achieving the SDGs, and we focus this year in SDG 16, so you can go to our website and look for United World Project, Focolare Movement, and you'll see a lot of initiatives around the world to achieve the SDGs.
Thank you, Maria. Bishoy.
أنا يعني استكمال للنقطة اللي اتقالت في دور رجال الدين وسؤال صديقي من نيجيريا. يعني أنا شايف إن دور رجل الدين مهم جدا وخطر جدا، أو سلاح ذو حدين في نفس الوقت. يعني الإرهابي اللي بيروح يفجر نفسه وسط مجموعة، ما هو يعني وصل لكده بعد ما قعد مع رجل دين، يعني تشبع بأفكار غريبة لتفاسير غريبة يعني. فهو دور رجل الدين مهم جدا، ولكن لازم يبقى مهيأ إنه يعمل الدور ده. يعني لازم ياخد تدريبات وياخد بناء قدرات إزاي يبقى ليه دور فعال ويبقى ليه دور سليم ينشر من خلاله ثقافة الحوار وقبول الآخر ونشر التسامح بشكل حقيقي مش كلام. فلازم رجل الدين يبقى مهيأ تماما إنه يقوم بالدور ده. وأنا شايف في مجتمعاتنا الأفريقية أو الشرق الأوسط عموما إن دور رجل الدين أساسي في حل أي مشكلة طائفية، بحكم إن الدين يعني ليه دور كبير، والمجتمعات العربية والأفريقية متدينة بطبعها بشكل كبير. وقد يكون رجل الدين يحل مشكلة يمكن القانون أو الأمن مش عارف يتعامل معاها، لكن بتخلص بعلاقة رجل الدين بالمجموعة أو الناس اللي قاعد وسطيها. فهو دور مهم جدا، شريطة إنه يبقى مهيأ للقيام بهذا الدور.
شكرا جزيلا. Thank you all. Let's give the last, maybe a comment from Zainab.
بظن الجهات الدينية لها دور كبير وتأثير مهم، وهي الأقدر والأجدر على التأثير لقرب علاقتها مع الناس وارتباطهم بهم في مختلف أحوالهم الثقافية والدينية والاجتماعية. شكرا.
شكرا جزيلا. So the last word to the chair of the session, His Eminence, please.
Well, I'd like to thank, first of all the panelists, because everyone touched in a different way in this question that we have in front of us. How, through dialogue, we can help peace around the world. And I'm not going to repeat. We've heard so much, and I think that going out of this room today, we are definitely becoming wiser. Without that means not wise guys, but really having this wisdom of the exchange between the questions and between the inputs that we had today. I don't know how many of you have heard of the myth of the cave of Plato. Plato was a Greek philosopher, And in his book, Republic, he brings this myth. You know, our society today, unfortunately, has got rid of myths. We don't say any more myths. We're trying to find probably reality. What is reality? We've heard from Zon earlier what is real and what is not. But in this myth of the cave, we see people that are chained in the wall, facing the wall, and they don't see the light. The light is upstairs. So what they see are just shadows that come by, and through the light, they have their shadows on the wall. And this is where our world is. That we don't see the real possibility that we have. And this is where we need the effort to see and to be able to look at each other. This is dialogue. This is exchange. The possibility to see the other at the face and to be able to exchange. When these people are chained back to back, they don't see the other, but they see the shadow of the other. So this is something. Sorry that I bring this, from Greek philosophy, but you see how important it is to think that, sometimes even philosophy is needed in this reality. We've heard so much, as I said, and I don't want to. I just needed to say that a few weeks ago, with some religious leaders, David Rosen was with me, and Sharon's here, of course, today, but with other religious leaders, we met at the Vatican, at the Academy of the Vatican. And the subject was the protection of the child in the modern digital world. And this was very important of what we've heard today, that it is important to use modern technology, but to be aware that that gives us freedom can also be something that can be used as a chain as well. So we need to know how it works. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you, Eminence, for these powerful words and the parable or the image from the Greek philosophy. Allow me just at the end of this panel to also thank our panel manager, my colleague May Salama, who is sitting in the back of the. Thanks for the good preparation for this panel, as well as the three rapporteurs. Can you raise your hands? The rapporteurs, yes, who are tasked to present a short summary of the discussions and the recommendations from our panel to the plenary. Thanks again, and have a good day.